What is up, boys and girls? This is Professor Obi back on the microphone once again, and welcome back to another episode of CAW University, my ongoing tutorial series for WWE 2K games. And today, I'm going to give you a quick and dirty tutorial on how to better import your face textures into the brand new face editor in WWE 2K17. Now, as you can see, we're here in Photoshop. That's where you're going to begin. You're going to take your face photo. Any face photo will do, as long as it's good lighting, smooth face, even proportions, that type of thing. And we're going to choose the pen tool for this particular operation. And what you're going to do with that pen tool is basically create an outline around the face area. You don't need to create this outline around the hair, the ears, just the main parts of the face, that being the eyes, the nose, the lips, and the jawline. You don't need the hairline, you don't need any background, you don't even need the jawline for most instances. But since I'm using a face here that has facial hair, we're going to want to actually add that in, because there's no way that you can remove it. Even if you try to, it's going to make the face look very, very weird on the CAW model itself. So if you're using a male face that has facial hair, you're just going to have to use the facial hair as well. So you're going to create your shape around the face, and when you see this little circle there, that means you've completed your outline. And when you click in, it's basically going to create that outline, and then you're going to reach the next step of this process. There you see the outline, and now we're going to turn this into a selection here by right-clicking inside of the area that we just made, and you're going to go down to make selection. Click that and make sure your settings are identical to what it is that you see here. 0 pixels, have anti-aliased checked, and new selection also bulleted in. And from there you're going to hit OK. Just make sure that your settings are identical to that I have here on screen. Hit OK, and then that thin outline is going to transform into the ants, which indicates that we now have a selection made out of the outline that we just drew out onto the face using the pen tool. From here, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to make this 512 by 512. Now, if you haven't already made a preset format for this, I highly suggest that you do, since 512 by 512 is going to be the most commonly used size that you will find for any logos that are imported into these WWE games. You get fairly good resolution, whether it be for show logos for arenas, tattoos, or face textures and face photos. 512 by 512 is pretty much the bread and butter, so I would highly recommend that you set it to what you see on your screen here, and then click Save Preset, assign it as 512 by 512, and then anytime you need to open up a new document, you can just go ahead and do that right there. So now we have our 512 by 512 file. We're going to take our face selection that we drew out with the pen tool, and we're going to move it over by clicking over to that move tool on the top left. You'll notice that there's a little scissor icon that pops up underneath the arrow. We're going to take our selection and drag it on into the blank 512 by 512 file. And there you will see the face texture itself with no background imagery whatsoever, just the face and a transparent background. Now from here, we will go into the next step of the process, which is cleaning up the edges. Since we cut out the face, it's going to have very, very hard lines, and we are going to want to soften those up. So for that, we're going to use the eraser tool. So after you choose the eraser tool here on the side, right there, you're going to want to pick a soft brush. So you go up to the top left and you pick your brushes there. Soft brushes are going to be the circles that have kind of the soft or transparent outlines, not the full solid circles. And you can be safe to drop it down a little bit, maybe between 5 to 10 pixels in width. And we're basically going to then just kind of shave off the edges of the face and create soft lines at the ends that will be a bit more transparent than the hard ones that were made when we cut the shape out. If you want to get finer details out of this process, then you can just use the magnifying tool there and zoom it in as close as you're comfortable with, and then just basically continue to do the same thing as you see me doing here, just shaving off and creating a soft line around the outline of the face. This is going to make it look a lot more transparent when you import it into the game. You'll definitely see a big difference to where if it was just the hard lines there, or even if it were me using the outline that I made for 2K17 for importing faces. Now you're just basically going around wherever it is that there are dramatic color differentiations, like maybe you might have missed a part of a hairline when you cut the face out, or those areas where there are facial hair. You're just basically softening up the edges on those areas. You probably won't even need to do it to the entire face. Once you've got that all taken care of, you can resize the face. Control T or Command T if you're on Mac. Just blow it up a little bit more, just about to the size where it's the center point of the entire document. No need for aligning here, actually, because this next part is going to be the bread and butter of this entire process and make everything that much easier for you. So you have your clean outlines, and what we're going to do here is basically create a face map out of this face texture. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use that smudge tool there, the icon with the pointer finger sticking downwards. And after you select that, you're going to make a bigger brush than it is that we made for the eraser tool. Still a soft brush, however. And we're just basically going to smudge out or stretch out all of that skin texture all the way outward to the negative area of the document. So you're basically creating a face map out of the photograph by stretching out the color pixelation of the face, which is that much easier now since we've made soft lines out of the outlines. So stretching this out is a whole lot easier than if it were hard lines, because those would all be showing right now as it is that I am smudging out the texture. But as it is that we eliminated those, all you're seeing being smudged out is just the skin tone itself, which will take onto the face texture when you import it onto the actual CAW model. And I mean almost flawlessly. You'll see when I actually import this into the game exactly how flawless it is as far as the coloration of the skin in comparison to the skin tone on the CAW model. and also the placement of the facial features on the core model. This right here is an alternative to basically the outline template that I had made for 2K16. It's completely obsolete now because all you have to do is this for any photograph that you might be able to find on the internet. And that was my phone ringing off there. I hope you didn't hear that. If you did, then yeah, whatever. Live commentary. That's what it's all about here. So yeah, we're stretching it out. Just the top half, because the bottom half obviously is facial hair, and we can't do anything with that. That has to remain as is. So after that is all taken care of, you are pretty much done with your face texture in Photoshop. You're just gonna save it as a PNG file to maintain the transparency of the bottom half of this particular image file, so that will map onto the CAW model perfectly with the facial hair right on the jawline. And there will probably be some realignment that will be necessary to be done. I'm just cleaning up a few more of the transparent ends here. Like some of it actually kind of shows through. You can still see the checkerboard in the background, which means that it's not completely covered or completely opaque. So just a little touch up there. And then we'll save it as a PNG file and import it using the 2K website. And you're going to see exactly the end result of this once we put it onto the CAW model and see how it looks like in game. So now we're actually in game here in the face editor feature. Already imported the photograph, and it's just a matter of resizing. As you can see exactly how it is that we do manage to resize the face using the new outline for this year's face editor. It is going to be a slight matter of trial and error as far as placement of the face, which kind of is a little complicated on the fact that there is the facial hair that you do have to account for. If it did not have facial hair, then placement would be a little less tricky, but that's where the other sliders and such like that can help you better be able to place and properly align the features of the face according to the photograph onto the actual CAW model. As you can see here, I'm kind of trying to fine-tune things here to where the facial hair will align perfectly across the jawline and still have the eyes, nose, and lips in a good position that doesn't need a whole lot of adjustment afterwards. Even though there's still going to be adjustments made, you'll see that it's very little adjustments that almost don't even involve any of the facial structure adjustments and all of the new sliders that they put into this particular part of the create mode. So I have the face map where it is that I want it to be on the CAW model, and then it's just a matter of adjusting the face parts to where the actual facial features are. And after you have this set, it's not finalized. You can always go back in and then readjust the parts after you've completely imported the face texture onto the CAW model itself. So you can go back in and clean things up a bit if things don't look exactly to your liking. As you can see here, I'm kind of stretching the lips out. This part right here is just for the sake of making sure that the extremities of the core model's face are hitting exactly on the proper parts of the face texture itself, because you don't want the lips on the core model to be higher or lower than where the lips actually are placed on the face map. That's going to look very, very awkward and weird, and we don't want to do awkward and weird here. We want to make very, very convincing and realistic looking cores. And here's how things look like after the initial adjustments and some fine tuning afterwards in the face formation feature. Just a few added touch-ups, slimming the nose back down to where it looks a bit more normal to where it is that the actual face picture that we used looks like. And we'll do the same thing with the lips, bring that up a little bit there, and then it's just a matter right here of playing it by eye, because the features of the face actually hit exactly where it is that where you would want them to, but it's still a matter of fine tuning to your own preference, just to make sure that things are as perfect or as good as it is that you could possibly get them to be. Of which I think I kind of got it right here. And I'll put a side-by-side comparison. But you'll notice that I have not touched any of the actual sliders in-game to make any of these adjustments. Just movement of the actual facial features in the deformation menu screen, whatever it is that you call it, was all it is that it took for me to get the picture to look almost exactly like it did when it was that we were editing it in Photoshop. And I will put a side-by-side right there for you to see for yourselves just how spot on this is, without any outline or template, just cleaning things up in Photoshop and importing it into the game, making your adjustments in-game, and near perfect conversion right there. So if this tutorial helped you out in any way, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you guys are enjoying these. And remember, it's trial and error. You're going to probably be doing this a couple of times. I would suggest that you do, just to experiment, get yourself acclimated to the features of Photoshop and of the face importer in game here. That's going to do it for this lesson in Core University. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is OB, aka Thr33X, signing off. Class is dismissed.